We're all gonna get A's.
Okay, we are recording. All right. It asked me if are we recording to my computer or the cloud, and I put my computer.
That's what I did last time. It worked good.
Okay. All right, I want to start off, guys, by reading something to you. Also, I want to ask you to have a pad of paper and a pencil handy. I have some questions I want to run by you and want to get some feedback. So let's start off, though, with this story. And the story is titled "A Girl Who's Been There." I'm an eighth grade girl. I was bullied from around mid-fifth to sixth grade. I had a slight crush on the boy who bullied me, so I only saw it as teasing and ignored my mother's warnings about the boy. By the middle of sixth grade, I was terrified of this kid, but I didn't really realize it, and I sat at his lunch table and talked to him during science. But the horrible thing was, he essentially robbed me of any free will. I had a tiny zit on my nose. You're so effing, you're as ugly as F. He didn't like my shirt. Bitch, you're an effing idiot. I bought the wrong thing for lunch. Why did you get that? Hey, look, everyone, she's got the mac and cheese. She's effing stupid. She's gonna die and the world's gonna laugh. I'm still terrified of this boy. I've said 6 words to him, I counted, since the beginning of 7th grade in September 2014. Now, just because I'm an optimist, I'm sharing a story only slightly relevant, but will hopefully restore hope in a shattered mind. A boy I like, my best friend, and my other friend and I were all hanging out at a school Halloween event. We were waiting to go to the haunted house. My bully and a few of his dumb friends were behind us in line. My best friend and the boy would answer questions if he spoke to us, helping me ignore him. And at one point, when he was staring at me, my crush gently nudged me around the corner, out of sight, and stood in front of me. This proves that your real friends will always, always have your back, no matter how bad things may seem. Don't give up hope. It'll improve. Love, a girl who's been there. Okay, so I wanted to start off and with a quick story about what we're here for. Okay, and that's bullying. Let me welcome you guys to our group session on bullying. My name is Mitch Friedman. I'm a teacher, a scholar, and all around good guy. At least to me, I am. I wanted to remind all of you that we previously had discussed informed consent. And so you all agreed on what the constituents of informed consent is, and you also signed a confidentiality form. So, what are the expectations regarding confidentiality? What's said in this room, what's talked about in this session stays here. It does not go outside. And so we all signed a paper to that. We all took an oath of confidentiality. I want to hold us to that. And I want you to feel safe enough to take risks in this session, to open up and talk about your feelings and your thoughts without worrying about what might leave here. I also want to remind you about the limits of confidentiality. My job and our job as counselors is to make sure that our clients and everyone is safe from harm or from outside influences. And so we want to make sure that, but by talking about confidentiality, that we talk about the limits as well. And when it comes to things like depression, extreme depression, and suicidal thoughts and things like that, that that sometimes counselors have to step beyond that. Remind, I did want to talk to you about share time and protocols of share. We have 2 hours, so we have plenty of time. And I'll go to Brianna if I need to, to expand that. But I go to 3 meetings, support meetings a week. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I've been sober now over 2 years, so it's really good. But I still go to meetings, and I will probably for most of the rest of my life. And in some of the meetings, we have 20, 30 people there. We have to relegate some time to each share. And so, but I don't think we'll have that problem here tonight. Protocol, please, be kind, be respectful. That's my expectations in this session. Okay, that we are respectful to each other, that we are kind, and that we hold each other to that. Okay. Does anybody have any problems to what I just said?
Nope.
Okay, great. If you have something to say, you want to share something, and someone else is talking, please don't interrupt them. Wait for your turn. I'm going to facilitate this. There is I believe there's a little button, there should be in the reactions area for holding your hand up. It's a yellow hand that's like this, okay? And you can press that. I can see it on the screen, and I can go to you to share something. Or if you have a problem with that, just go ahead and raise your hand like this so I can see, and then I will acknowledge you and give you the floor to share what you're thinking. Does everybody understand that? Terrific. All right. Let me go over the agenda real quick today. I want to go around and just introduce each other. I know we know each other, but in a meeting, that's what we would do. I want to find out from you on what would you like to get out of this meeting? What would you like to get out of this session? And I wanted to focus on bullying, not so much counseling, but I want to focus on the bullying aspect, since that's what we're here for. Okay, so try to think of that. If you want to use your pencil or something and write something down, that's great. But I want to find out what you want to get from this. Okay, so we'll go through introductions. We'll go through a discussion on what is bullying. Who are these bullies? What ways people do get bullied, the effects of bullying to people, some real stories. I have throughout the meeting, I have some real stories, just like the one I read earlier, about people who have experienced that. We'll have an activity. It's called a roundtable activity. I have some questions I'm going to throw out, and I want everyone doesn't have to share about the same question, but let's get some people talking to each other. If you have feedback for somebody, I really want that. Okay, so that'll be kind of a roundtable. We'll talk about prevention and reporting, because we all, as counselors, as teachers, I know we have a principal in the room also. We are reporters of this, and so we taught that from the very beginning. But we'll talk about prevention, and at the end, we'll have any questions or comments, and I'll go over summarize everything as well. So is everybody on board here? Are we good?
Yes.
All right. Terrific. I want you to write down some questions, and then after our introductions, we'll come back to it. I'm going to come back to them. Okay. So grab your pencils, and the first question, or the first scenario, I want to read to you is, and write this down, please. Every day, Johnny threatens to beat up Kristen after school. Okay. The second one, Kimberly says, "You are so funny," to Ella after she told a joke. Number 3, am I going too fast?
No.
Okay. Raul posts embarrassing pictures of Carl on the internet. Number 4, Turner tells the other kids on the bus not to let Claire sit next to them. And the last one, number 5, Nevaeh sneaks up behind Carol and screams, "Surprise!" They both laugh. Okay. So now I'd like to go around, maybe give you 2 or 3 minutes to introduce yourself to the rest of us here. And if you have a personal story regarding bullying, someone you're someone something you've dealt with in the past, if you want to share that, please go ahead at this time. And also, I'd like to see if you can think of something that you would like to get from this session, some type of goal that you'd like to get from this session. Okay, so I'll start off with Jessica.
All right. Hello, I am Jessica. I'm a counseling grad student. I work with youth who are in crisis, youth and their families. So certainly I do work with youth who both have been bullied or are currently experiencing bullying, and also youth who have been bullies to others or are currently being bullies to others. As far as my own experience, I've lived a pretty charmed life. And so I don't have any experiences that I can really think of being bullied. I'm certainly like as a kid, there may be 1 or 2 where like there was like an altercation or something with another kid, but then it was dealt with and I became friends with them. So I can't really be like, oh no, I know what this experience is like firsthand. I certainly know what the experience is like secondhand from working with people who have experienced real bullying, the after effects, or having been bullies themselves. And as far as what I'm looking to get out of this group today is maybe insight on how holding that moral injury of being a bully is for those individuals who are bullies. That's something I'm particularly interested in, and helping those individuals recognize that, and also learn how to reconcile with themselves past that, because sometimes it can be hard when you're labeled as a bully to just lean into that instead of find how to move on from because that can be really tough when you're like, all right, well, I guess I'm this bad person, I'll just keep being that person. So yeah, kind of bringing some empathy to those people who might be perpetrators of being bullies.
Thank you, Jessica. And it's very nice to meet you. Thank you for your story and your goals. We'll go to how about Justine?
All right. Good evening. I'm Justine Pillar. I am a high school principal. And so just like Jesse, I guess I would say, I mean, I work quite a bit with bullying in my work. I probably would have told you before my current position that I had probably experienced some form of bullying in junior high. And I now know from learning about bullying and the definition of bullying that I probably didn't. And so I would say I spend a lot of time working with kids who are bullied and who are bullies. And so I think for me, a goal tonight would be, I think, looking maybe at sort of the healing or restorative process that takes place after the bully. Once you can stop the bullying behavior, then what do you do with the repair between the people that have had that conflict?
That would be a great discussion later on, and I'm going to bring that back up if you don't mind,
Awesome.
Justine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we and maybe we can share our own thoughts about that. I know, in my experience working as a teacher in schools, districts have their own policies regarding bullying. You have to go through a training and all that. I'm sure you have done that many times. And so it's good to have you here for this meeting today, because I want to get your insight on some of the other aspects as we go through this. So I'm going to look for you for that. I hope you don't mind.
Totally fine. Looking forward to it.
Let's go over to Cindy, Cynthia. Who would you rather call you, Cynthia or Cindy?
Cindy is what everyone calls me except my mom. I'm in trouble. So
Okay.
great. Thank
Cindy,
you.
why don't you go?
So I'm Cindy. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. It's 107 today
Oh,
here.
brother.
I think I'm sweating as I'm sitting here. Air conditioner is trying to keep up. I teach in higher education, and I see what I believe are the effects of bullying. I haven't necessarily witnessed it in a classroom, but it kind of goes along with my what I'm interested in learning about. Basically the definition, why it happens, why bullying happens, and what a teacher can do. So I'm sure Justine has some insight if we do in fact see that. As far as my experience, I'm a little bit older than some of my classmates. And so therefore I grew up in an era in South Mississippi where bullying wasn't really recognized. It was that, time of life years ago where it's like, rub some dirt on it, get back out there, you're fine. Nothing's wrong. You're great. There's no bullying. You're fine. So that's kind of what I grew up in. So it has taken me a lot to adapt to, just understanding what it is. And I have children now that are, 19 and 21. So they've gone through it. I've seen it. I've seen the effects of it on my children. In fact, my daughter switched schools in 8th grade because of bullying, girl bullying. So that's kind of my experience with it.
Thank you, Cindy. Yeah. And we'll go over definitions and what teachers and counselors and other people that are in these positions can do to help other people that are facing that. It's not just kids. I mean, we focus on kids because those are the ones that really feel the impacts the most. But adults as well are bullied, especially at this time with social media and all that, So and one thing I've learned in just my research for this class or for this meeting is that, that not just kids, but everyone experiences bullying. So of some sort. We might not even recognize it, but we could be bullied, So Brianna, yeah, we'll go to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brianna. I am from Lemoore, California. I work in education as a paraprofessional. I do see bullying happening a lot, especially amongst like the SDC students. I myself have experienced being a bully and being bullied. So I was, on both ends. And to this day, I feel like I am still a victim of bullying. A little bit about me: when I was in school, I actually took part in a friendship class because my mom thought I was just a big bully to my siblings. And so what I hope to get from this too is just learning when to recognize when the roles have changed. As you know, I know how it feels to be bullied. I don't like it. So I just have to learn to just learn skills, when to stop, when to regroup and look and evaluate what's going on. Is it, something that I need to work with? And also just learning more of the different types of bullying, because like you said too, like we probably don't even realize that, that's a form of bullying, as there's a lot that, I know I've been a bully on social media as well. So
Yeah. I know I have also.
yeah, no,
So,
I have. So it's like, I'm really excited, for this session, because, there's a lot of things that I want to reflect on and learn too, and just take away a lot of things that'll help me.
great. I hope we can find that that help for you in this meeting here. I want to go back to those questions that we just wrote down, and the first one was every day Johnny threatens to beat up Kristen after school, and that one is pretty evident, right? I'm going to ask, is this bullying? And the other thing is why you think this is bullying, or why not? So does anybody want to share their thoughts in regards to this, or I'm just going to call you if that's how this goes. So I'll give you a chance to raise your hand if you want to share about this, number one, or I'll just call on you.
So
Okay.
we're answering about it, what we
Yeah,
think.
just raise your hand if you want. Go ahead, Brianna, if you want to start.
Yeah, so I see this as a form of bullying because Johnny, right? It is?
Yes.
Okay. Is threatening to beat up someone every day. So that's, you're instilling fear into that person from not wanting to come to school because they're fearful of what's going to happen, how big the beating's going to be, what's going to take part, leading up to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Installing fear, right?
Yeah.
Bullying a lot of times is a sense of power. It's a power struggle between one person and another, and it's one person trying to be more powerful, or trying to shed their power over somebody else. So fighting, like this. Does anybody else have any thoughts about that? Gosh, you guys are really
I would
talkative.
want more information.
What was that?
Justin, go
I
ahead.
would want more information.
You would want more
Hey.
information?
Yeah, there's not enough information for me to determine. So the everyday part is part of bullying is that it's a pervasive pattern. And so that checks that box. There has to be a perceived power imbalance. And so I'll just throw out the devil's advocate. Johnny could be a kindergartner and Kristen could be a fifth grader. And every day he goes out to the bus and he's like, I'm going to beat you up. So in that instance, it's not bullying for me, because there's not the power differential is not there. But for sure, like the installation of fear in somebody, yeah, like I could get there that this is verbal bullying, depending on the right scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, that's okay. I was just gonna say I agree. Like Cindy, I grew up in the Southeast, where kind of like the dynamic was more like ribbing and kind of like playing around. And so it's like, are these siblings? Are these friends? Is one like, like the babysitter of the other? Like I would need more information. I need to know, like, is Kristen like laughing when he says this? Like, yeah, right. Or is she scared? Like I need to know what her feelings are about it, like what her perception is, and how it's affecting her. Not that we need to know how exactly it's affecting her for it to be bullying, but it would help to understand the dynamic of like what's going on. Because on the surface, yeah, it can look like, well, yeah, you're threatening harm. That's awful. But we also don't know what the like where the lines of consent are in this like interaction between these two.
Yeah, so knowing the facts, right? Knowing everything, this is pretty vague. You know, it's telling us that someone's beating up somebody else, but it's pretty vague on all these other details that you guys are bringing up. So, yes, as counselors, as principals, paraeducators, or whoever, we really need to know the facts about what's going on. I mean, all the details, right? So we'll move on to number 2. Kimberly says, you are so funny to Ella after she told a joke. So, I mean, is that bullying? No, I don't think so. Does anybody have any comment on that? Jessica?
Sorry to be that person again. Again, I
No,
need more
please.
information because I would need to know Kimberly's tone. Like if it's like, oh my gosh, you're so funny, or if it's like the mean girl's like, you're so funny. There's a big difference there of like negging someone without it being outright. That there could be a dynamic there. Like I would need to know more information because it could be where, yeah, Kimberly could just shrug and be like, I said she was funny. But without recognizing that that tone means something. So it kind of depends.
I think if it happens once, though, I wouldn't qualify it as bullying.
Yeah.
I mean, like I would harassment, but and
Yeah,
that
we
like
don't know the dynamic, right? Like,
yeah,
is she constantly making little comments every time Ella says something?
right, yeah,
Me myself, like Cindy, I come from a different era, you know, where you know, my friendships, the group that I used to hang out with, I mean, if it was now, you know, and I think the same thing happens now, but yeah, we got bullied every day, you know, by my friends. But that was just the dynamics of you know, a bunch of guys together, and what we did to each other, you know. So you know, like but you're right, you know, you're so funny, you know, could be construed in many different ways. And with these one lines, we're not getting a lot of detail, you know, and so that might be a theme to this particular activity, is that, you know, is this bullying? Well, we don't, you know, it could be, you know, if there was more information, maybe we would know, you know, yes or no, completely. Does anybody have a comment on that? We'll move to the next one then. Number 3 says, Raul posts embarrassing pictures of Carl on the internet. Who wants to take this one?
I would just
Cindy,
say,
why don't you go?
does Carl think they're embarrassing, or who thinks they're embarrassing? Maybe Carl likes those photos, but his mom thinks they're embarrassing. I have a teenage boy. Why is somebody posting photos? Why did you post photos of yourself on social media? I don't understand it. So that's a perspective. Does Carl believe they're embarrassing?
Yeah, you know, I have a teenage son as well. I was taking pictures just of him, you know, enjoying something one time, pictures that I've always taken in the past, and I wanted to post them on Facebook, you know, because hey, this is a great time. And he was all upset because he didn't want his friends to see those pictures, because you know that they would think in a totally different way that I think they are, you know. And so what you were saying, Cindy, is really true, that, you know, does Carl think they're embarrassing? Does the parent, does who, there's so many different dynamics, and we're coming from different directions here as well.
Yeah, I'd want to know like if Carl was really uncomfortable, if he could like had the comfort and ability to say to Raul, hey, yeah, that's funny, but I really don't want those on there. Will you take them off? And then if Raul would be like, all right, great, I'll take them off. I'm so sorry. I just thought it was funny. Or if it's more like, haha, look at this loser. And that's how the dynamic is. It kind of depends on, yeah, what's going on, and then how much control Carl has on his images being shared.
Yeah, I would like to add on to what you said too, like if Carl was aware of the photos being taken of him, or if it's, you know, an off-guard photo that's then shared online making fun of him like that, just to see more in depth how that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cyberbullying is a very the internet is a very powerful tool, and with especially with the young, the teens in particular, um, just my opinion, of observations and working with these kids at the middle and high school levels, um, it's it's a very sensitive tool that's being used and there are so many protocols that kids use in how they use those apps and those and the social media things. So yeah, cyberbullying is very powerful, and we can talk about that as we get in. But if this reads the way it does, Raul posts embarrassing pictures of Carl on the internet. I mean, let's just say that he's posting pictures that Carl doesn't like. Then it becomes bullying. If it's used as a power tool, then it becomes bullying, and so the impacts of that on Carl could be very, very large in his life. The next one, number 4, Turner tells the other kids on the bus not to let Claire sit next to him, not to sit next to them. What are we looking at here? What if you're like the bus driver? What if you're, someone else sitting there, and we're going to talk about that too today, about, different aspects of people that are around the bullying, as well. But someone telling someone, don't let this person sit there. Is that bullying? Just,
Yeah.
Brianna,
I
what
would
do you
say if
think?
it, oh, go ahead, Brianna.
I would see it as bullying because you're making it difficult for that student to find a seat. And then on top of that, now you have a lot of other kids on the bus who are, you know, preventing her from having a seat. So it's making her feel like, okay, I'm not wanted. No one likes me. And so, you know, it's going to shut her down.
Yeah, yeah. And it demeans people, and all of a sudden now Claire, is there with not only not without a seat, but but feeling alone, you know, and that's for kids, for anybody really, no one wants to be alone, and so yeah, it's I would consider that bullying, just as I read this. But yeah, I mean, we can read all these and say, hey, we need more detail as well. But number 5, and we'll finish up with this real quick, 6:05 already. Nevaeh sneaks up behind Carol and screams, "Surprise!" And they both laugh. So I think, Justine, why don't you take this one?
Again, like all of these, let's say Nevaeh's doing it every day, just for the sake of argument. The fact that they both laugh is irrelevant to me in a lot of ways, because Carol's response in front of the bully is not necessarily indicative of how she really feels about it. And often you see that kids laugh it off, and bullies will say to you, well, she laughed. Like, she thinks it's a joke too. And then behind closed doors, the kid's like, it's not funny at all. But like, what am I going to do? Stand there and cry about it? Like, I laughed because I'm trying to avoid making it worse. So the fact that they both laugh to me is not like make it not bullying. But I would want to know what Carol's perception of what's going on is. And so I guess like if it's happening every day and Carol's perceiving that like this is not funny, it freaks me out, like and it's bothersome, then yeah, like I could get there with bullying. But this on its own, like they could be friends, it could be something funny. Um I don't know. I would really want to know, I guess, if Carol actually thinks it's funny or if she's just laughing to kind of put off the bad scenario.
Yeah, Justine, I didn't even think about that angle to it, I mean, my first reaction to after I read it was, oh, they're both having fun because of the last statement that they both laughed, right? But you're right that that initial reaction is not it might not be
Yeah, it
indicative,
totally could
right?
be. You're
Yeah.
right. Like it totally could be. They could be good friends and they could be laughing and it's fine, but it like not seeing it or talking, I wouldn't know.
Yeah. Does anyone else like nervous smile or like laugh when you don't know what else to do? Because I do that.
Sure.
I immediately go into like nervous smiling where it's like there's a smile on my face, like that's just how we're gonna calm down the situation. It's certainly one of my de-escalation tactics to go in and be like, hey, how's it going? What's going on here? So that makes sense, Justine, to kind of be like, yeah, there could be nervous laughter because yeah, what else are you gonna do? It's a defense mechanism. Just
Right.
to be like, ah, that's funny. The 15th time in a row. Great.
Yeah. Yeah, great points. Great points.
These are good
Anybody else?
scenarios, Mitch. I like the going through this. It's helpful to talk it out.
Yeah, different situations, right? And I think that's a great way to motivate discussion, is to just put people in and make them think about certain situations that they've probably have seen or read or something before, so yeah, thank you for that. And thank you guys for participating in that, quick um activity. From that, let's talk about what is bullying. Does anybody want to just off the top of their head, because I'm going to talk about it, but from the top of your head, what's your definition of bullying? I'll start with Cindy.
I would say something to the effect of a persistent negative impact on one person from another. So someone saying, doing something over and over again towards another individual that makes them feel uncomfortable. I don't know to what degree the definition would be, specifically, but just, yeah, making somebody feel terrible all the time that would be, not even all the time, like, and over a period of time would be, I would say, considered bullying. But I have not studied bullying, so I'm here to learn.
How about you, Jessica?
I guess I would define it as like a pattern of intent to cause harm or distress to another person. But that's like my clinical speak. Of how I would like describe it if I was doing like a case note. It might be something like that, is that I'd want there to be intent in there to show that like this is an active action towards another person with that kind of malicious intent to cause that distress or harm or threat of harm for whatever reason, because there can be different reasons for bullying, right? But regardless.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
like Webster's definition. That was a good definition. I like hers. I go with hers.
Brianna, or do you have a thought?
For me, when I think about that question, what is bullying? I see bullying as unwanted aggressive behavior. And well, it's not just with children, it's with everyone, adults as well. And that when I just like think of the types of bullying just now, just thinking of that one question, I see it mostly as like verbal. And a lot of the social media stuff. And well, bullying for me is just, it can take place anywhere, wherever. It can be in your work, school, home, and trying to think of what else, because like questions, when you just think of that one question, I feel like there's a lot of things you can answer with that instead of just like that one word, what is bullying. The name calling though, we see that often jokingly, but then it's like, to an extent, when is that, considered bullying? Just your constant like bickering, spitting on each other, because I see that a lot. Because it can just be like someone walks by and you just spin, you're like, well, you were in my way. No, that's a form of bullying, because there's a motive, you wanted a reaction from somebody. It's happened to me.
Well, sorry.
Thanks, Brianna. Justine?
Yeah, I like a lot of what everyone else has said. For me, it has to be ongoing. It has to be deliberate, and there has to be a misuse of power, and that can be perceived power. It doesn't actually have to exist, but it can be the victim's perception that causes some kind of harm to somebody. And I think about verbal, physical, social bullying, and then cyberbullying for sure is a thing. So I think you guys kind of covered it.
They did. And, one of the things that the one word that kept coming back, as I was going through this was repeated.
Yeah.
That bullying doesn't happen in one instance. This is a repeated action over and over again, to have this imbalance of power over somebody else. So bullying, I'll read this to you. Bullying is different from typical disagreements or arguments between friends and classmates. What's the difference? It's bullying if the person is being hurt. Justine had mentioned that. It's being hurt, harmed, humiliated by repeated words, repeated acts or behaviors or gestures, even gestures from another student, another group of people. It doesn't have to be one-on-one. It could be a group, including, and of course, cyberbullying, including digital and electronically. And some examples, I can throw out there is harassment based on race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, disability, religion, which includes cyber harassment against members of the school community. And these are important. The behavior has to be repeated. And it is done intentionally. I think Justine had mentioned that too, or someone did, that it has to be intentional. And the person being hurt, harmed, or humiliated has a hard time defending themselves from the behavior. Does anybody have any thoughts regarding that?
I have one.
Go ahead.
I think also like that definition and most of the definitions I've seen don't capture this really, but it can't be like mutual. So like I'll just use me and Jesse as an example, right? Like we're in class together and I walk in and I'm like you're a loser, you have no friends. And then the next day she's doing it to me. And so it's this back and forth dynamic between the two of us. That to me, I think is one of the disqualifiers of bullying, when it is like a mutual retaliatory thing going on. It has
So
to
that
be,
is not bullying.
no, not.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, at least you're the expert here. In my work, we don't qualify that as bullying.
Mm-hmm. I would say not, but it really doesn't fall into the definition, that I read there, where, it's, I don't know if it's humiliate. I don't know if it's harming the other person, because you're just kind of bantering back and forth. We used to do that as friends, when you know, when I was growing up. You know, and you know, did it bother me? Maybe, you know, but I also was giving it out. So yeah, I don't know, you know, I would say that it's not. But if it's something to this extent here, maybe it's going back and forth, but maybe one of the party, it's really inwardly hurting, you know, inwardly affecting them. And you know, as the banter goes on back and forth, one tends to grow higher than the other. You know, one's banter back is not as forceful as the first one. So then it could turn into a bullying situation. What do you think about that, Justine?
I say no. Sorry. I
Okay.
get that a lot with parents. Like, look at what she said to me, and I'm like, and look at what your kid said back. I don't know. Like, maybe Mitch, you're right though. Maybe like some mild comments as a way of like deflecting or like trying to defend oneself, like the nervous laughter, right? I think I think maybe like there's some nuance to this, right? And so you have to talk to the kids. You have to, and so I think what you're getting at is some of that nuance that you get in a conversation when you sit down with the kid one-on-one and start asking hard questions, right? And they're like, well, yeah, what else was I supposed to do? I responded, but like I'm a nervous wreck and I can't come to school. So I think maybe.
Well, how about this scenario? Okay. You have two friends and they're going back and forth, and one friend knows a certain something about the other friend and keeps that's his expressions to that other person is hitting him on that aspect, and it's really hurting the other person.
Mhm.
But that other person, that other friend knows that to be included in this friendship, all right, he's going to have to retaliate somehow. And so he comes back with something which doesn't really bother the other person. It has nothing to do, you know, with their family or anything else. But the first one, the first friend, has this on the other. And so there's the imbalance,
Yeah.
you know. And so could that be, you know, in your mind, could that be considered a bullying situation?
Yeah, if there's a piece of information that they know that by exposing that is going to cause harm, I would say probably. But I don't know.
So I think the big thing we're considering here is the imbalance, right? The
Yeah.
imbalance of power between whoever's in play here, right?
So holding that piece of information, like you just said, creates that imbalance of power. Yeah.
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 Anybody else?
I think
I'm gonna.
perception is a big, sorry, I think perception's a big part of it. Cause like going to the scenario with like me and Justine, where like if we're trading insults back and forth, she might be like, yeah, me and Jesse are enemies. And I might be like, this is the fun thing that I do with Justine, where I come up with creative insults and go back and forth. And so I think, yeah, that perception is something there. And then also looking at power dynamics. Cause like, what if Justine is my older sister? And so like those insults going back and forth mean something a little bit differently when Justine's the one watching me after school. You know, and so yeah, I think that's just interesting to think about.
Yeah, those are good points.
Excellent. I'm going to throw out some facts to you about bullying. Okay. On the average, a bullying behavior lasts only 37 seconds. And teachers notice and intervene in only 1 out of 25 episodes. So, you know, the people here in this room who are in classrooms, and principals are in classrooms as well, you know, each one that you see, there are 25 other incidents happening that you're not, you know. And I saw one just last week, and I brought the kids into a separate room and talked to them about it, where one student is with her friends and they're at a desk and they're doing their work, and another student is at another desk, just, you know, a little bit away. One student seems to be, in my perception, a more popular with a more popular group than the other student. All right. And so the one student who was not as popular said something to the student who was popular, saying, well, you need to do this work. Mr. Friedman's expecting you to do this. And the one girl retaliated by saying, you know what, you're not in our group. You'll never be in our group. So you don't need to tell me, you know. And to me, that is a form of bullying, right? You know, does any, you know, and we talked about that afterward. You know, respect and not being. You don't need to be, you know, above everybody else, right? So does anybody have any comments about that? I just wanted to throw that out. Yeah, for every, like I said, for every incident that we're seeing, there's 25 other incidents that are not. Is anybody surprised about that? Yeah. And bullying occurs in at least 2 to 3 times. Well, in here it says per month. I disagree with that. Actually, I think it happens a lot more than that. What you know, Brianna, you're in the classroom. Do you think that happens more than 2 to 3 times a month?
Yeah, no, I see it happen a lot in the classroom, out on the yard, and even when they're leaving campus. It's just ongoing, and I see it not only within the students but within the employees, our staff.
Yeah, yeah. Um, um, it's some more facts just real quick because we're almost at break time. Bullying is violence. Okay, it's a power imbalance, and 71% of school shooters have been bullied in one way or another. All right. Before we go to break, I want to read something to you, another story. And it goes like this. It all started when I was in 5th grade. I was the new kid at my school, and this kid would call me names and eventually tried to tackle me. At the start of 6th grade, the kid got his friend to join along, and they called me names like whale and worse, and they said it right to my face in front of a lot of other people. I never even acknowledged them. They would just call me names and other stuff. In 7th grade, they were in my home room, which made things a whole lot worse. They started saying even worse things and doing even worse things. They would throw food at me. They would and throw other things at me. They also started saying I was fat, ugly, worthless. They even told me to kill myself. But I never told an adult about any of this because I was scared that the situation would get worse. And because I told no one, they got worse and worse. One of the kids even moved, but the other one would still sexually harass me, and I did nothing about it. But people started seeing this stuff happen, like others in the classes. And one of my friends came up to me and said, a lot of people have been noticing this, and the vice principal is wondering if she should address this situation. And because I knew now I was not alone, I said yes. I was sick and tired of being harassed to the point where the teachers gave me the teachers gave me a safe code if I even needed it. And every class in the grade for academics has assigned seats. So I had a meeting with the vice principal, and she said she would deal with this. So today I use this safe word and wait for this kid to get what he deserves. And the meeting was only yesterday. So I have been holding this in for almost 3 years. Okay, so these are real stories of real kids who had written these stories. So I'm reading them from their thoughts, from their pen. And it's just I thought it's very impactful to hear that. And I want to leave us, we're going to take a 10-minute break right now. Okay. We'll come back at 6:35. And I want you to think about the story that I just said. Okay? Anybody have anything? No? All right, so I'll see you in about 9 minutes, okay? All right,
All right.
thanks. So Brianna, how are you liking this?
I'm enjoying it. I
Oh,
like
good.
the little scenarios that you're giving us, because when you first gave the first one of being threatened every day to get beaten up at school, I wasn't thinking about the other questions that everyone else was coming up with and, like, you know, wanting to know the facts. I was just like a quick, okay, that's what you gave me, that's bullying to me. But I need to, like, again, that's what I shared too in the beginning, that, you know, realizing, you know, when is it bullying and when is it not bullying. Because anything with me, like, I'm a twin, and you know, my sister would tell me I'm ugly. I'm like, Mom, she's bullying me. She's like, she just said you're ugly, and she was being, you know, funny about it. Like, you guys are sisters, but I'm like, any little thing, I'm like, you're bullying me.
Yeah, like just sibling dynamics really. I'm also a twin, and man, we really worked out how to yeah, be the people we are today on each other. For sure.
But see,
Yeah.
I learned that I ended up being known as the mean twin, because when my sister would come to me when we were younger, she was like, "Oh, so and so are bullying me," and then I go and I defend her, and then 2 minutes later, they're best friends. So everyone, every time, they're like, "Oh, you're the mean one," and I'm like, "I'm not mean. I was just trying to protect my sister." But yeah, now I'm like, I'm the bully.
Yeah.
Why,
Yeah, I mean,
since the beginning, you have been calling yourself a bully. Why do you think you're a bully?
Because I'm aware that I can be mean. Um, and I don't apologize. And that's why too, when I was younger, my mom put me in friendship class every single school year since 4th grade. And I never learned when we do activities. One consisted of a pack of 8 crowns, and it was a group of like 10 or 12 of us. And so we had to learn to share, and I was like, I didn't know I know my manners, but, like, you know, when you're in the moment, I'm like, give me the blue crown, and I had to learn on, when you're done, can I please use the blue crown after you. I never learned that, and just learning to share and everything, like, I was just very demanding. So that's why I say I'm a bully.
what's the
There is a
line of
difference,
being,
between demanding and mean, though, right?
Well, because
yeah,
see, I know, see, that's the thing too, is like, I'm aware that, like, you know, I am demanding, but I target those that I know won't challenge me. So that's why I'm like, I'm a bully, because I know who to target, who's my easy target.
Some
yeah,
good self-awareness there, Brianna.
Yeah. Well, and on, like, I was sharing with Mitch, was that, you know, I'm learning a lot more about myself in this, because I wasn't aware about it. Like I had shared earlier, before you had got on, that um the first example he gave us about the being threatened to get beat up after school every day, I wasn't looking at the facts. I was just, okay, that's what you gave me, that's bullying. I wasn't thinking about the all around situation. So I'm getting, you know, being more self-aware of myself. So, like, that's why I keep looking down, because I'm like, that's me. That's me. So, like,
yeah. What is the line between being assertive and being bully, like being a bully? Because like there's got to be intent to be a bully, right? Whereas like when you're assertive, you're like, I'm standing up for something.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be cruel, but you know, criticism can be helpful, even if it is always nice to hear, right?
Yeah. Well, I think because I did do counseling at school. And I learned that I ended up, instead of wanting to learn at the moment of, like, how to, like, get out, stepping out of that spotlight, excuse me, of being known as a bully, I liked that title, because at school that was the cool thing. Because if you were a bully, you got to hang out with the cool people. But now looking back and reflecting, it's like, now that I'm adult, it's like, okay, well, where are those cool people who were cool, you know, back in school? Where are they now? Do I still really want to remain in that group, or do I want to grow from it? And, you know, I've reached out myself, and I've learned to apologize. Like, you know, when we reunite with friends and we're just, you know, little mini reunions, I'm like, I'm so sorry. That was so rude of me. So I'm being more self-aware.
I find it interesting that these patterns, these uh, um, these things that you think you've done, stayed with you, and that you felt you needed to acknowledge that.
Yeah, because well, for me, I always like to go back in, because working at a school too, it's opened my eyes. Like I see myself in those students. Like when I get upset and I'm mad, like I can't be upset because again, I had a teacher once. Did they yell at me? How did they handle the situation? I can't get too involved with my personal feelings. So I always have to take a step back and then look at the bigger picture and just kind of go with how was I treated, and learning just treating those the way I was treated, or even grow from it. Like, oh, if I think of a situation and I knew something wasn't beneficial for me as being the bully, working with them, or being the bully, just learning different exercises to do with them.
And I was thinking about this kind of during our break, that I mentioned that my daughter switched schools. She would not go to a particular school because of a group of girls. But from my perspective, and this is being a Christian too, like you're placed in certain situations for a reason. And so, you have to learn from that. So my daughter, what we focused on was learning from what went on. Like, what are you to learn from this? Life experience, right? This is your life experience. What are you learning? How are you growing? How are you going to become the woman God wants you to be based on what you've experienced? So yeah, it's not, ideal. I wouldn't want her to have been bullied, but she has become a better person, and she's become the person she's supposed to be based on that. And she's learned a lot, so there's always multiple views to see how, people, and I guess adults also can learn and grow, from their experiences, maybe being bullied as an adult.
I know your goal, Brianna, was to recognize, when bullying is happening, and being able to see that, and how to react, and hopefully we can talk about that, and you can learn something, learn how to do that with this session. It's funny how time goes flying by. I was worried I might not have enough information or enough material, and I think I'm going to have too much, so I'm going to fly by a certain things and try to get I want to get to our discussion panel, our round table that I want to have, a round table activity. But ways people can be bullied, and this is good for for you, Brianna, with your goal. People can be bullied in both direct ways and indirect ways. All right, and just to give you some examples of that, like in direct ways, like pushing, hitting, kicking, damaging someone's possessions. It can be thought of as physical ways or direct way of bullying somebody else. Verbally is a form of direct bullying. And there might be some verbal on the other side too, and indirect, but verbal in a direct way, like teasing somebody. We talked about that in some of the earlier discussions. Name calling, threats, intimidation, even jokes. Remember that question we had earlier? Even a joke could be thought of as a way of bullying somebody else, and of course, spreading rumors. That's been going on for decades. Even in my time, spreading rumors around. We didn't have the internet, of course, but it was easy to get rumors spread around school. And psychological means of direct would be like extortion. That's huge, extortion, right? Or something as simple as rolling your eyes. Okay. So those are direct ways of, indirect ways, exclusion, the story I told, shunning people from a group, or even a seat on a bus, right? Ignoring somebody, telling others not to be friends with somebody. We talked about that from that question from earlier. Gossip, lowering people's opinion, of another. There's direct and indirect ways of a sexual bullying somebody sexually, inappropriate touching, sharing inappropriate photos, demeaning someone sexually or bodily, and demeaning somebody's gender. Okay, and we know with reading all the news and everything going on these days that that is happening. And cyberbullying, of course, is one of the major ways for teens. Mean text messages, posting videos or inappropriate pictures, spreading rumors through social media. Is there any other means that you guys can think of that I didn't mention here that you might want to share with the group before we move on?
I was just going to comment, before this conversation, I didn't think of like sexual harassment the same as like bullying. So like with that in mind, thinking like, oh, have I ever been bullied? No, but like if we're considering sexual harassment as bullying, then oh boy, like, yeah, I'm a woman. So I've experienced that since like, middle school, I would say. So that was interesting to think about, like, oh yeah, let's consider what sexual harassment bullying looks and feels like too. So that's just my comment.
I agree. I was gonna go back to the story, Mitch, that you read before the break, and I was gonna say like that kid's got bigger problems than bullying because there's a Title IX about to be opened on him. Because as soon as anything is sexual, in my world, it's not bullying, it's Title IX, and so
Right.
like that's an even bigger can of worms for that kid. So
Right. Yeah.
but yeah, I agree with you, Jesse. Like I don't typically lump sexual bullying in there because then it goes a different route. But yeah, that's interesting.
But like I had said before, Justine, that bullying doesn't just happen with kids. It happens with adults too, and when I think back how I treated some of the women that I've been with, you could possibly put that in the category of bullying, of being, using sex as a power, as a power trip. Being a man, I look back, I know I've done that, and so I never thought when I was doing this research, and when I put that into this, I thought I was curious to see what reaction I would get because I'm with 4 other women, I'm the only guy here. But yeah, to be honest with you, I really felt that I have, in my life. And so, I feel bad about that. I really do. And I wasn't aware of it then, it's good for me to cleanse, so to speak, and share about that. All right. I do want to try to see if I can share something with you guys here. It's called the bullying cycle. Okay. And I'm not a IT guy. So okay. So I'm going to see. I'm not going to be able to do this. I just don't know how to. I'm sorry, but it goes through the cycle. All right, so you have in the middle of this, and I apologize for not being able to do this. In the middle is the targets, the people, the victims, the people that are being bullied, and on the outside you have, on this side, you have, the people that want to help. Like at the top, it shows, you have the resistors, the defenders, the witnesses, the people that actually step in and help. The people that actually have the courage to step in and help, these victims that are being bullied. But the next category down is potential witnesses. I want to see, from my goal with this is to see where do you fit in? Where do you fit in on this bullying cycle? If you were involved with something here. So the next one down is potential witnesses, those that are opposed, to the bullying, but don't do anything to stop it, and they're scared. They have the fear takes over, right? And then you have the disengaged, onlookers, those who observe, none of my business, and turn away and walk away, and then on the other side, you have the bullying. On the top, you have the people bullying. You have the bullies who are actually doing the act of bullying. Down below, one notch below them is the henchmen. And you see this. I do a lot. On social media or whatever, of people taking part in this. They're not the leaders, but they're taking an active part in this, in this bullying. The next one down is the active supporters. The ones taking the videos, right? The ones that are yelling out, go, whatever. Right? Those active supporters. They're just as bad, to me, as the bullies. And then you have the passive supporters, the ones that enjoy the bullying, but do not show open support for it. Okay, so that's the cycle that you have, in this bullying. So I'd like to get some feedback from you on, where do you guys think you fall? In a bullying situation, where would you be? And I'll start with Cindy. Where do you see yourself on that cycle?
So I don't remember when you were talking about it. It seemed like there was passive supporters, active supporters, people who weren't intervening. I would hope that I would be, oh, there we go.
There we go. Yeah. I was gonna say, I just found it too. That's the exact one I was looking at.
Oh, okay. I'm like, wow.
I can't, I'm sorry. It's not gonna be, but let me know when you need me to scroll.
Who's sharing this?
Thank
Is this Jessica?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is exactly, it's not the exact picture, but it's exactly what I'm talking about. Yep.
Yeah, so I would hope that if I were to witness it, that I would be the defender of the victim. But looking at recognizing it, I don't believe I am. I don't know. Normally I think about this as children, right? You often hear about bullying with children, but since you had mentioned bullying as adults, if I were to see that in my workplace or amongst friends or something like that, would I be able to recognize it? And if so, would I be able to defend that individual? And I haven't consciously been aware of it or have not recognized bullying in adults. And in my classroom situation, it's difficult because they're big classes, so getting involved with even seeing, recognizing it in a classroom of 120 students is kind of hard. So I haven't recognized it, but I would hope I would be a defender of the victim, and intervene. The good news is in the job that I work in, I don't see it, and hopefully I'm not the bully. I don't think I am. I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. So maybe I need to be wherever that I could be a possible defender. But I'm just not, I don't recognize it in my situation.
And let me put it this way too. Have you changed? Have you been one of the other and changed to now? Like right now, Cindy, you want to be a defender, right? You know, you hope to be that if that situation arises. Have you been something else earlier in your life?
I would say I probably would be, I don't know, what is under the possible defender?
Disengage on the
Yeah. So I would probably be, I would not be a supporter of it, at least consciously, knowingly that I was, being a bully, but an onlooker that would not want to be involved. So I was very shy growing up. And so, somebody was doing something, I am not getting involved in that. My dad would, break out his belt and I would be in trouble if I got involved. So you just keep your distance and, not get involved. So that's probably where I would have come from.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. How about you, Jessica? What do you think?
Well, I know what I would do. So because of previous jobs that I've worked, talking about like trauma responses and like what happens when our bodies are called to engage, not just from trauma, just like when there's something that we have to deal with that's really uncomfortable. My trauma response is to fight. I wish it wasn't to fight. I wish it was to run away. That's not what happens. I like jump into a situation to be like, okay, how can I activate in this situation? The problem is if it's like a physical thing, I'm a marshmallow. So I'm going to immediately make myself into that center victim part pretty quickly, which isn't great. It isn't so fun to be like, hey, no, stop that, or we're not going to do that. And now the attention is off of the victim, but now there's a new victim. And so it's not effective. So I wish that my tactic was more to maybe like confront the bully in a like relational way, to be like, hey, what's going on? Why are we doing this? What do you need help? What are you really frustrated about? That's what I would hope to do. But no, typically, yeah, I get real mouthy and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you bothering this person? And then now I've started something I can't finish and have to deal with that. That isn't so fun.
Yeah, thanks. Have you seen yourself change through the years, do you think?
Oh, it's gotten worse where it's like I'm even more like jump in the middle of things and then I'm like, why did I do that? Now I had angry person and I am back onto myself. I mean, luckily, like nothing bad has happened. I'm not saying like I'm out there just like trying to be a superhero and like draw attention, but I will say it's helped me with a lot of like conflict de-escalation with people where they're angry and being like, let's get down to a reasonable part where we can talk. But it's not so fun to have to like start to backpedal once you've like entered into something in that way. So I don't recommend it. It's difficult to untangle. But yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you, Jessica. How about you, Justine?
Oh, I think that like, I mean, I guess I would say that at this point in my life, I would hope not to be on the right side. No, the left side of this. Um, I generally don't think that I would enjoy seeing somebody bullied. So then on the right side, I think I'm kind of with Cindy. For sure, it depends. It depends on the scenario and sort of my role, if you will, in the scenario. So if I'm at work and I'm with my principal hat on, right? Like I'm definitely defending the victim. Like that's part of my job, right? Um, but if I am at work in a meeting with a bunch of people in superintendency and I see it happening with people that have where there's a power differential between me and the people that it's happening with, I for sure am an onlooker. It's not my problem. I'm not getting involved. Like I don't know. I think that you could be in lots of different places depending on the scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you with that. Brianna?
I mostly see myself now between the defender of the victim and possible defenders, which is just depending on the situation. But I do like to at least acknowledge that, something is, someone is in the wrong. I'm gonna have to admit, I was a supporter of the bullying, but because I learned, again, self-reflecting now, that I was okay, and I, not that I enjoyed it, but I'd rather it be someone else being bullied than myself. That's what I had learned. Like, it was like, okay, like, the heat's off on me, it's onto someone else. Like, let's leave it there away from myself. And I enjoyed that. I didn't enjoy that someone else was, getting bullied, but it was more of the, not my problem. It's not me
You
today.
supported whatever dynamic was going on to take the heat
Yeah.
off you. Like, I think that's totally understandable in some ways, like as a kid, right?
Yeah, no,
Survival.
and even just as an adult too, like when I see it being done, like with other paras, like they feel like they're being targeted by like our admin, and I'm like, okay, well, I walk in one door and out the other. I don't want to cross paths, but I'm glad it's not me, and it's not right that I do that. But then again, it's just, again, it's not my problem. But then if it was me in that situation, I would want help.
I can totally understand that, Brianna, because I've been a para too. And even as a teacher, you hear all these different stories, of other people. You get like you walk into a room or talk to another teacher or even, or a para, and they have these, these feelings, these they reflect their what they think about something, and yeah, in our school district right here, we're dealing with budget restraints, and there's a big fight between the district and the union here, and teachers are being let go and so forth, and it's just not, and a lot of teachers are mad. And so I get in conversations a lot with teachers, and I have to hear it, but I'm also, I want a full-time job. I'm subbing right now and I want a full-time job. And so I have a relationship with the principal as well, in the middle school. I have a relationship with the superintendent of the district. We are a small school district here. Yeah, so I try to play both sides of the street. I think that's what you were kind of saying there, right?
Yeah, like if I'm just, happen to just walk into a room and like they're, venting about each other and something's going on, I'm just nodding my head and then, just walking out the door and again just continuing nodding my head, but then it's because I was glad that I wasn't being targeted. But it's like, okay, I have to, then speak up, there's a certain extent, then I do defend the victim if I feel like, something's, not being said about them that's, correctly. I'm literally I'm gonna be honest, I'm all over the place. I'm not gonna lie, I'm all over the place. Like looking at it, I'm like, no, I am a bully.
But I think that's wiser, Brianna, because like with me, I'll just jump right in. And then sometimes like that person really didn't need me to jump in. Maybe they needed that opportunity to stand up for themselves, and they don't always need somebody to come in and get into that mix for them or with them. And so I think it's smarter to kind of hang back and be like, what is the actual situation? What is the actual need here?
Yeah.
What is my role? Like, what does my role need to be here? That you don't have to constantly be in everybody's business, because not everybody likes that.
Yeah.
Then you're getting yourself in trouble for no reason. Or you're taking something away from somebody else. So I'm not like, yeah, I'm the defender and that's great. It's not. So I would say you're wiser to kind of like feel things out and have some more like information before jumping in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you, Brianna, I look back at my life and I was probably each one of those bubbles. there at one point in my life, you know, in one situation or another. I was probably each one of those going around the cycle. Now in my life, I hope that I'm the defender, you know, and can stop it, and not have the, you know, that fear that guided a lot of my life, you know, up to now. So yeah, but when I started looking at that before, I just said, well, gosh, you know, there are situations where I was everywhere on this thing, you know, and so yeah, I can definitely relate. You know, before we get into the activity, the roundtable activity, wait, 7:05, so we still have time. I want to just go over some effects, you know, of bullying, and we can talk about prevention as well. But effects, you know, and it's on both sides, right? So I want to talk about effects of the victim, you know, from bullying. And then talk about effects of those who bully. All right, and if you have any thoughts about it, please, you know, let me know. But we'll start with the victim, and you know, normal effects, normal feelings, normal emotions are going to come up. So victims are going to feel a sense of anxiety. They're going to feel depressed. There's going to be sadness, hopelessness. Of course, if you're in a school, it's going to be decreased academic achievement. So if you see that decline, there could be something going on. And if, especially for a teacher, and I've dealt with this before, you'll see that decline. You know that there's something going on. It doesn't even have to be bullying. It could be something at home, in which it would, in the case that I'm thinking of, it was. And bullying can go at home too. I mean, parents can bully a kid. So, you know, I mean, that's something too, you know, and isolation. You know, those are some things that that I you know, found, you know, that one. Does anybody, you know, I know we have a principal here. We have people that deal with this type of stuff, but others too here. Is there anybody that has other effects that impact the victims that you might want to share? Yeah, Jessica.
I mean, for me, I work with a lot of kiddos who are experiencing suicidal ideation and self-harm. And often those are effects of being bullied at school. And so we deal with that quite a bit.
Yeah.
I would say
Even some homicidal ideation too. Sorry.
no, you're
Yes.
fine. I would say, adding on to that, from personal experiences and just like, you know, dealing with the students, a lot of, well, like we spoke about, the fear, depression, loneliness, low self-esteem, and the physical illness, like always just feeling sick. They're not sick, and I learned that too within myself. Like I'm just like, I feel sick today, but I don't know what. But it's just because it's just your body takes a toll on that, and we don't realize it until we're a victim.
Really good points. Yeah, especially that physical, because I see that a lot in the school, with people, you know, with students.
And I would say maybe some of that has to do with, so this is an effect on the receiving end, on the victim's end, but maybe also on the perpetrator's end, that your lack of sleep, it's something that they're thinking about constantly. So they're distracted from things that they should be doing, such as school, for example, such as building other relationships and sleep. And if they're constantly thinking about these things, that it's impacting them, it's not only impacting, you know, them at that particular moment, but it's also impacting maybe their development in certain areas as well. So more long-term effects.
Yeah, they're short and long term, definitely. Yeah. How about not wanting to go to school? You know?
Right.
Yeah. I dealt with that with my son. On the other side, though, effects, and these are interesting effects. They're things that the bully might be dealing with. You know, in their own life, like drug and alcohol use, or bullying can actually lead, to that. Fights, vandalizing property, decreased academic achievement, early sexual activity, criminal convictions, abusive behavior to or from family members. Can anybody think of any other impacts that someone who is actually doing the bullying would have?
Also, suicidal ideation, self-harm. I see the same with both of those individuals. Homicidal ideation.
Yeah. Yeah, and self-harm too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This type of conversation makes me think one of the things that I had written down in the beginning when we first started today was why it happens. Like, what is it? And there, I'm sure, are a variety of things that lead to it. And it could be a relationship between the two people can spark it, or it could be something that is occurring, within either the victim or the perpetrator. I don't know, is that the right term? I don't know why that somebody said it, but yes. Like, what is it that's going on? Because that would be recognition of those things and a resolution or rectifying whatever it is that is occurring in either either individual could help remedy the situation. Like, that's what I would be interested in, is how do I, if it is my child that is doing the bullying, what is it that as a parent I can interject and help prevent that from continuing, I guess.
Yeah.
Or on the receiving end, if it's my child who is being bullied, what can I instill? What values can I instill in my child to help remedy the situations? Maybe they're a pushover, and so that's the problem, and that's why they're getting treated the way that they are. I don't know. Those are the ideas of things that I would be interested in learning more about.
So let's talk about prevention. All right. So what are ways? I'll throw this out on the table first. I mean, I have things I can tell you about that I found, but what do you know about prevention right now of this? Does anybody have anything?
I mean, I think that you mentioned a statistic that doesn't make me feel so good, like the 1 in 25, right? But when you do see it, you need to act immediately and consistently. So expectations about, like, I mean, we have a zero tolerance policy for bullying, whatever that means. But like the idea that this is not something that we take lightly. And that, so when adults intervene, if we're talking about bullying with kids, when adults intervene, there's a clear message to the bully that this behavior is not tolerated. So if you want to be here, you can't behave this way. And that comes with some teeth to it. It's not just like, oh, you're not going to be here anymore. You're really not going to be here anymore. So I think setting some clear boundaries, that doesn't stop. I mean, I will just tell you, that doesn't stop the bully from bullying all the time. It maybe stops the bully from bullying at your school. Sometimes they just move on and go do it somewhere else. So I think like intervention with that individual and some counseling, probably, like I send them to our social worker, like, you need to sit and chat with this kid about like what's going on for him or her, that this is what they're doing, like what's going on for them at home, or what's going on for them socially, that this is how they're behaving, and try to talk and listen to them. I don't know. I don't know the magic solution. So if any of you all know, please tell me.
Yeah, one of the, I think the big things. Oh, I'm sorry, Jessica, go ahead.
Oh no, it's okay. I was just gonna say, if we're thinking about like prevention, like solely just prevention of either someone being bullied or someone bullying, I think that it's teaching, whether it's in educational settings or work settings, because I think in both we do a really poor job of teaching people how to have civil discourse with each other, or having disagreements or criticisms of each other, and being able to express that appropriately, and understanding that you can disagree with somebody without just like teasing them or bullying them or hating them for having differences. I think that especially with kids, they see a lot of opposing opinions, having these very like heated conversations where no one's actually listening. There's no like active listening like our counseling skills. I think it'd be nice if some of these counseling skills that we're learning right now were taught at much younger ages, for people to be able to talk to each other. I think it would help quite a bit with people being able to hold those differences, and certainly normalizing things like differences of kids, or differences of their families, of their backgrounds. I mean, I'm sure you all have seen kids especially get bullied for really stupid things, like having the wrong type of Crocs that they're wearing. That was one of my kids, that it was like she had Crocs, but they were the wrong type. They weren't the right style. And it's like, what a ridiculous thing to get bullied over. But that's where they were. That's what they were
Yeah.
getting bullied. So I think normalizing some things, and embracing differences, and being able to have differences of opinion without hate having to be brought into it. Or be like, you can be passionate about something without hating the person that isn't passionate about what you're passionate about, would be helpful.
Yeah. Thank you, Jessica. And here's, first of all, being a teacher, and this goes with being a para or a principal or anybody really that works with other people, is being observant. Being observant and advocating for for your students, or for the people that you're working for, is very important. Also, it takes a village, for prevention, the community, parents, teachers, staff, friends, victims, strangers, kids, who bully. It takes a village to have prevention of all this. Creating a school an environment in the school, constant discussion, open discussion about it, making a plan. And I know schools have plans, but making a plan even at home, writing down everything. If you're being bullied, write down everything that's being done. And document it, please. Make sure that you get that information out to students and to people. To write it down, make sure they get it. Share information with parents and guardians. Don't hide, don't isolate. Adults at school that you trust. And assert your rights. The end of bullying begins with you. And so those are some of the things I want to get. We have about 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes to do this before I go back and talk about the goals and stuff like that. Also there's 6 R's of prevention. You might want to write this down. I don't know. These are the basic rules. Rules are recognizing, respond, refuse, and replace. And if you want to go ahead and look that up, there's some really good information about the 6 R's of prevention. So this activity is called What Do You Do? All right. And I have a bunch of questions here, or scenarios to put us into. I'm only going to probably end up doing 1 or 2 of them. Okay. So let's play along. And here's the first one. The meanest kid in school thinks it is fun to tease you every chance she gets. You're afraid she is going to hurt you, and you're beginning to hate school. What do you do? I'll start with Cindy.
So if I'm beginning to hate school, is that what it is? I want to make sure I understand it.
Yes. So what it is the meanest kid in school, I'll reread. The meanest kid in school thinks it is fun to tease you every chance she gets. You're afraid she is going to hurt you, and you're beginning to hate school. What do you do?
Well, if I'm in school, then I would go to Justine because she's my principal. Maybe I would start with Brianna because she might be my teacher. I go to my teacher first and then just discuss with an adult. I mean, it could, I guess, potentially begin at home. I think as a child, I would not feel confident enough to talk to the perpetrator, especially me as a child. I definitely know I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, remember what, some of the rules, some of the prevention ideas I just shared, share information with someone you trust at school, like a teacher, like a principal. Many schools have counselors. Many schools have, people, social workers even, that you can go and talk to. And so, yeah, it's good to, like Cindy was saying, good to build trust with those people. Anyone else want to share on this one?
Go,
Brianna.
Um, I I like, it's not that I like the confrontation, but I would approach the person and ask them like why, like what's their issue with me? What did I do? Like what is it, like is it just like my looks? Do you like what's your problem? And if it can't get resolved, then I would go speak to a teacher, anyone, and ask, like how can we handle this situation? Because I already did, I already confronted the person myself and nothing's, it's still continuing.
Yeah, so you would confront that's your
Yeah.
first. You would confront the person, and then if that doesn't work, go talk to a trusted adult.
Yes.
Anyone else? Jessica, did you have something?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna get myself beat up because I'm gonna go talk to the person for sure and be like, "What's going on?" And they're gonna be like, "Oh, I don't like you," and I'm like, "Well, it looks like you do because you're talking to me every day. What's happening here?" I can't fight, but I'm gonna at least start that confrontation of like, what's happening here? Because that's just who I am. I'm gonna try to solve the situation first, and then after I get beat up, then I would go parent probably
Okay.
or a teacher, just because of that trust of like, well, this happened. I got myself in trouble here. What do I do about this now? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with Cindy. There's no way. I'm not. There's no way. The meanest kid in school? Absolutely not. Because yeah, and now on this side, for sure, Jessica is getting beat up, and Brianna is getting in a full-on fight. So I've seen this play out too many times.
You don't want to go there.
No, no.
Do you, as a principal, I'm assuming that your school has a policy, a plan. Do you hold do you bring classes in? Do you have someone that goes into classes first of all to talk about this, a counselor or someone like that, or do you bring classes to the auditorium and talk about the bullying issues?
We've for sure done assemblies on bullying. And while it does happen more often than you would like, the number of like percentage wise, the number of kids it impacts is low compared to other things. So I would say we manage it more like on an individual basis. But I know we have done assemblies on it before. It's just, there's bigger fish to fry in some ways of things that like impact our whole student body that we would do assemblies on, but
Yeah. I know it for a student to go right to a teacher or right to a principal or a counselor might be looked at, might be looked down at. by their friends, so the kids have so much on their plate, in regards to how they're going to react to everything. And in bullying, do they confront? Maybe that's what their friends, the group, wants them to do. There's a lot of dynamics involved with that. All right, so we're at 7:24. What I want to do is just go. I want to kind of summarize things, and go over some of the goals that we talked about earlier, the individual goals, the individual, what do you want to get from this session? I hope I achieved that for you. Jessica talked about the moral aspects of bullying, and I looked that up, because I wanted to have some feedback for you, on that. Before we left, I want you to walk from this session with feeling that you got something from this. So I looked it up during our break, and for moral involvement, it talked about if I could read my own writing, dang it, is social interactions and thoughtful care, so what drives people to bully? What moral implications are people dealing with regarding reaction, bullying? I mean, all these aspects, right? And I think social. I think by bringing in religion, by bringing culture, by bringing values, cultural values. I know one of our discussion questions had to do with bringing spirituality, into counseling for bullying. And I think that's a means, a technique of moral involvement. I hope that is something that you were thinking about when you brought that up. And if I'm wrong, talk to me here. Moral involvement. What did you mean by that?
Well, with moral injury, just like holding, like I really thought about Brianna throughout this whole thing of like having that self-awareness of like, oh, I used to do this, but I'm learning how to like reach out to people and apologize and like reconcile with people that I've hurt. And like how to help people like hold that and understand, hey, just because you've done bad things doesn't mean you have to be a bad person or that you are a bad person, and that you can come back from that. So certainly listening to Brianna share so bravely about her own history with that has been helpful from this group.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
good.
that's
And I'll see if I can find some more information that I can send you too. Okay, that might help you with that. And then I need to get through this. So Justine talked about restoration. How can we restore from a bullying incident? And one of the things that I found it could be a lifelong process, of restoring, but what you want to do is just reclaim control. You want to reclaim control of yourself, of you, recognizing your own values, and avoiding isolation. I know in recovery, from something, you don't want to be isolated. You want to be with other people. You want to hear other stories. You want to know that you're not alone. And so I think that's in restoration, in restorative, practices, and schools. We went from zero tolerance, practices to restorative practices, and that's all part of it, is understanding self-values, and recognizing, being self-aware of values, and restoring control. So I hope that is something that you can, take. Maybe some of the discussions as well helped you, find that knowledge of that. Cindy talked about definitions and why, that was something you wanted to get from this session. I hope that we gave you that, the definition and why people do this, and then Jessica, I already got the, Brianna talked about recognizing, when someone bullies, right? Recognizing that. Now we recognize 1 out of 25, right? In the school, which is something I hope we can become better at. But did you come up with some skills? Some areas where you can, being more observant, right? Going to functions, things like that. Advocating. Those are ways that we can get more involved with our students. And understanding them more. So those are ways of recognizing when people, when something happens, when there's a difference, in someone, something different with them. So yeah, I wanted to, touch on that. We talked about what bullying and certain facts about bullying. We heard, some real stories. I even have one more, but I don't have time for it. We had a little round table, and we talked about effects and preventions, and we spoke what will you do now, in accomplishing goals. So do you guys have any last minute thoughts or anything regarding the bullying of the session here? No? All right. I know it's been a long 2 hours. Thank you guys for for attending here and being part of this. And I had a good time, and I hope you come away with something. I have some resources that I can send out to people if you would like, in regards to places that bully, that people, the victims can contact. So let me know if you want some of those resources. Each local area, state, and federal, at all levels, there are resources, okay, that you can find online. But I can send them to you. Remember that you're not alone, and remember to be a friend. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you. Nice job, Mitch.
Thank you. All right. Well, I'll fill out that paperwork. Do you have to do it within 24 hours, Justine? I know you were talking about that.
Cool
No.
about it. You don't.
Okay. All right. Cool. So I'll get that filled out. We'll get some feedback. And thanks, guys, again.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.